What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 177 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Solozo and NetRush. And today we're bringing on some of our favorites. We have to catch up with them. We love these guys. They're fantastic. We have to talk all about what's been going on because they're juggling all kinds. They got multiple 6-7-figure businesses. They run an amazing podcast, Firing the Man. We have to catch up. So Ken Wilson and David Schomer are on with us. What's up, guys?
Gentlemen, good to be here and very excited to record a podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, guys.
It's been 6 months. Yeah, it's been 6 months now. We just looked at it.
Yeah, back in episode 132, we had you guys on last and had a blast. It's fun. Fellow Missourians on with us. We are opposite sides of the state, but what we talk about is we got a nice little snowstorm rolling.
Yeah, it's been a while. I remember, I don't want to date myself, but we haven't had much snow in Missouri for a while. But I think it hit my house where we have 12 to 16 inches, so it's pretty cool.
Those are the kind of storms I like. I got a half inch, maybe 1.5 inches. Dustin's got 5 or 6. I hate when it just does a little bit just to mess everything up. Give me 12 inches. Give me a 14. Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so before we jump into what's been going on with you guys, for people that weren't listening or haven't tuned in or know who you guys are, just real briefly, just a little background on what you're doing, what your businesses are, and talk about your podcast. Ken, why don't you go first and give them a little background?
Yeah, so David and I, we've got a podcast. It's a Firing the Man podcast, and it essentially follows David and my journey from, we used to work in corporate America for a decade or two, and we kind of started a side hustle, and it evolved into a legitimate business. And then so we kind of worked it to where we could exit our day job and fire the man. And so the podcast tracks that. And as well as, we share all the tips and tricks that we use in our businesses. David, you want to cover the business side?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ken and I are owner operators of right now 5 FBA businesses. And so we're primarily selling it on Amazon US, but have recently expanded into UK and Germany and Walmart, which we ought to cover that on this episode because I think there's real opportunity there in 2022. So Ken and I are living and breathing it every day and hop on the mic once a week and talk about what's going on and bring on sellers and agencies and people that we're working with. So it's a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, definitely worth checking it out and subscribing to. You guys have really good information on there. Obviously, having 5 Amazon seller accounts. Let's talk about that a little bit. Was that acquiring, or did you start from scratch and each one of these is started from the ground up, or were you acquiring these accounts?
Yeah, we started all of them from the ground up. And I'll tell you what, for those of your fans that are readers, I would like to recommend a book. It's called Buy Then Build by Walker Deibel. And had I read that book, I never would have started an Amazon business. I would have acquired a small one and scaled it. And I don't want to give away too many good bits of that book, but I think as we look to growth plans over the next 5 years, acquisition mode is definitely going to be a larger piece of our strategy.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and to speak to that a little bit more, all the entrepreneurs that are listening to your show, I think it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a bad thing, but being an entrepreneur, everyone on this knows you always have these ideas going around, and it's which ones do you pull the trigger on, right? And so I think David and I probably over the last 5 years or so, we've actually had a lot more, but we've really kind of narrowed it down and trying to focus on the stuff that's really making 80% of that 20. And so but yeah, starting up all of those by scratch and then kind of growing them and then kind of preparing them for exit, as well as, like David just alluded to, acquisitions.
What's the criteria to start a new Amazon account? When do you decide to do that?
I would like to say that we have a formal criteria, but we don't. I love beekeeping. I started a beekeeping brand last year simply because it was a passion project. It's a niche, and I'm going to be doing beekeeping anyway. And so that is we have a couple brands like that kind of follow personal interests. But one thing that, and Ken and I were doing this last night, we really like to fail on paper before we launch a product or start a company. And so we were looking at a product launch, looking at competitor pricing, cost of goods sold, how much would it cost to get it here? And, what we found was that particular product, we need to look for some different suppliers because the pricing doesn't quite work out. I did not do that at the beginning, and I wish I would have. I would have saved myself a lot of headaches.
I like that. Fail on paper before it. I could have used that advice a long time ago. That's for sure.
What's the process to get another Amazon account? Because I know, like in the past, that was kind of like, like maybe don't do it. You don't want to get suspended. I know Amazon kind of pulled off the blinders there and let people do it more. What's that process look like to get another Solid Central account?
Sure. So the process that we use, and it could be different for other people, but we send an email with a template to, I believe it's seller-performance. I'll have to verify that, but there's an account, I think it's Seller Performance, but there's an account within Amazon. You can send an email with kind of a template of like, hey, this is, who I am. This is the other brand that I have. We're looking to sell these products in a different niche. We want to have a different account with a different bank account, different tax ID. And there's specific things, keys, items that you have to list. Send it in, they review it and approve it. And somehow they probably link them back in the back end of their database somehow saying, hey, this seller has 2. And so don't flag them for whatever. But that's what we've used to operate multiple. I log in from, you hear all these horror stories about people using these crazy VPNs and multiple laptops and all that. I log into like 4 or 5 different accounts in one Chrome browser and no issues. So
that's good to know.
That is good. And the only criteria is it's different niche, different bank account. It's like a whole separate company.
EIN number.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Different bank account, different EIN, different products. Those are the kind of the top 3.
Did you ever have a scare? Like, did you ever have because I'm just nervous. Like if you would do it, boom, is it gone? Like has there ever been an issue?
No, the only issue I've ever had which was kind of weird. And David might've had other ones on some of his, but I've had one time we shipped in products on one account and it showed up on the other. And we tracked it down and we looked and everything was right. The address, the ASINs, like everything should have went to one account and it popped up on the other one. And other than that, I've never had any other issues.
That's so interesting you bring that up. That exact thing happened to me earlier this year. I helped a friend launch a product. I actually ended up creating a listing and everything on my account. Ended up just saying, you take it over. I never even sent inventory in. Like he took it, created his own account. The listing was already created. He started selling off of it. And maybe 2 months ago, all of a sudden I had like 40 of his units in my FBA inventory. Everyone's like, what happened? And Amazon would not resolve that. Like they're still in there in my account that I cannot get them transferred. I have to get them shipped out and then shipped back to him, which is ridiculous. I might just sell them, send him the money.
Yeah, that's funny that it happened to two different ones, and the listing is still kind of shows up in my other account. So like if I ever try a new software tool and it kind of imports all my stuff, it'll pop up. I just have to kind of hide it. But yeah, same deal. It's like still in there. They won't. I called them and what they did was they transferred the units to the other account, but left the listing still as populated in the other account. So, I never put anything past it. Nothing shocks me with Amazon. It's a massive beast that nobody really controls. You guys know that.
Yeah. So you got 5 accounts. There's got to be a team like for each one of these, right? Like what's your structure look like on the team and go from there?
Sure. David, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we tend to have a specialists that work on 1 or 2 things across all brands. So for instance, we have someone who's updating listings right now, doing keyword research, and they will cycle through all of the accounts. And, you kind of have to ask yourself, do we want an employee that can go a mile wide or a mile deep? And our preference is a mile deep. in terms of really honing in on that craft and becoming an expert there, as opposed to asking them to do 10 different tasks at a medium skill level. And so, one thing I have to point out on, if someone is thinking about adding a second account, why I think they should is, every Amazon seller has a little bit of anxiety about Amazon shutting down their account. And instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket, we have 5 baskets, and that really diversifies risk. If one were to get shut down, we still have cash flow from 4 others coming in. The other thing I'll mention is that, I spent 8 years in consulting, and a good bit of that was in M&A. And if you look at multiples from a carve out, so for instance, someone was selling like only one product line, carve outs will have a lower multiple than a standalone company. And just because it's so challenging to unwind expenses, like, you had an employee, were they working on this product line or this product line? We don't know. So we're going to assume that they were working on the product line being sold. And so I really, yes, it causes some headaches. You have to get a second Helium 10 account, but I think the juice is worth the squeeze.
So where do you find these VAs? Is this VAs or just local? I mean, we know the sources to go out there and find them, but what's your, like, when do you decide I need to get somebody for keyword research? And then how do you go about vetting them and getting them on the platform and working with you guys?
Sure. So I'll tackle this one. As David mentioned, we're kind of siloed in each like marketplace and use someone specific for each task. And before, it was kind of like early on, we were like, yeah, we're running around, you guys know, operating businesses and doing life and everything else. You have very little time. So we're like, let's just bring people in as fast as we can and to offload. And so now we're at the level now where we have everybody in place where we need to be operating pretty efficiently. And so now as we bring people in, we're like, where's the gap? Like, what can we add to the business that's going to bring the most money? And so that's kind of how we're hiring now. We bring a lot of people in. We use onlinejobs.ph for most of our team. And we kind of have a process that we run through where we do like multiple interviews, like 3 layers of interviews, and to kind of weed out people. We have a specific process on that. And then, but yeah, we're looking for a specific talent. Say we're hiring a PPC manager, we'll throw that up and just cultivate as many resumes and applicants as we can, and then just kind of whittle them down from there. One pro tip, as we're sharpening our sword on this building a team process, culture is very important. And so, bringing someone in that fits in your culture as you're building a team is huge. But at a high level, that's our process.
When you hire, so like what trick I hear a lot of people do is they'll put like in their cover letter, add the word Ken Wilson in your cover letter to make sure that you read the whole job description, right? Like,
yep.
You don't want people just to constantly spam you with their cover letter. You want them to actually read the job description, and that word has to be in their proposal or they get kicked out. Is that the thing we're talking about, or is it furthermore like, are you giving them like test project to do and then seeing how they work?
So we do have what you're talking about in our process. That's like step 1. That weeds out probably 30% of people that are just looking for something. And depending on what we're hiring for, that we will like web designer. We hired a web designer last year. We looked at project work. Like, what can you do? Like, the thing about it is a lot of people can fudge a resume or fake it and say, I can do all this stuff. And then you bring them in and you find you can't. So yeah, if we're looking for someone that's technical or for what, specific skill set, that we're looking at project work. We might even give them a small project, test it out. And actually we do that among, like, say we narrow it down to like a top 3 and give them each a project and maybe pay them for their time, 2 hours, 4 hours, get that work in. And we're going to know right there from, hey, this one's the best, or this one can actually do what we say. And we'll give them a real project. Maybe it could be a lead image. We're hiring a graphic designer and say, hey, go make us 3 lead images. We'll split test them and say, hey, this one here is a winner. But to your point, like the step 1, I always put on there, on the reply, put your resume attached or a link to your resume at the very bottom. And that's our filter. So as I'm scrolling through, 50 of them. If there's not some, that's my first pass. If, I just delete anything that doesn't have a resume attached or a link to a resume gets deleted, and then go from there.
Yeah, those are good tactics. Because I remember I used to put job postings out, and then you just get flooded
with them.
with them, and it is really hard to decipher. And you mentioned culture being a big part of that. How do you guys cultivate that? How do you determine if this person is a good fit for your culture? What's that process look like?
One pivot we made, and I'm going to get to answering this question, but one pivot that we made in 2021, which I think is working out well from a cultural standpoint, is in the past, we've worked with agencies, and that's nice in that they will train their employees, monitor their employees, but you really don't have a lot of control over what your employees being paid, and, providing incentives and whatnot. And so, when we like to think that we have a high performance culture. If someone comes to work with us and they're doing an awesome job and they want to, get a 20% raise, that's possible in our organization. It is. And there are people that, we did that a couple of days ago. We gave a guy 20% raise. He is a rock star and he deserves it. And, that aligns, we have aligned incentives now. Whereas when we were working with an agency, we paid them a flat fee. And we found that oftentimes the person was working on our account, but, they were also doing training. They were also doing a lot of things that were not on our account. And so that's one thing. The second thing is Ken and I have families, and I think everyone's had that one boss that is just mean and doesn't understand that there are bigger things outside of work. And we both have kids, and we get it. Stuff comes up, and it's a give and take, though. The person that has a grandma that dies every Friday is not like, you know what I mean? That, but if someone is working really hard and providing a lot of value to us, we're happy to, give PTO or cut them some slack on, anything family related.
I think that's a great point. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. Just a couple things to add. Like everything David mentioned, and then at a high level, like we want to build a team that is excited and energetic to work and to feel like they're part of a larger organization, and they're having an impact on what they're doing. Like their hard work is making an impact in other people's lives, and so we're trying to really build that culture. Like Dave said, we take care of our people. Like David and I both, everybody probably listening to this has had, a jackass boss where they don't care about you. They just, you're trading for your time for money, and that's it. You come in, do your job and leave, and we don't care about you. And so we're trying to build that, cohesive environment where, everybody on the team feels like they belong and has a place, and they're making an impact in other people's lives. And so that's kind of at a high level, just taking care of people. I think it's easy. I think in a corporate environment that gets lost, as it grows. And so we really focus on that, taking care of our people.
It's good to keep like good people, right? Like I have a couple of VAs. I think I'm up to a dozen now, but it's good to my accountant I've had since day one, like 2015. And it's like, he's great. I want to keep him. I don't want him to go anywhere, but it's good to keep those people on the team and then give them like a 20% raise, like David said, or even like a Christmas bonus, or if they need PTO, or if something happens and they need a new laptop, buy them a new laptop, whatever. Like it's going to keep them people around.
Yeah. Two last things as to round out this culture conversation that we've done. Back when I was working in consulting, one thing I loved was a partner would come over to your desk and say, "Hey, you want to go grab a cup of coffee?" And for a half hour, you chat about nothing project related, but just check in. Hey, how are you doing? And so once a month we call them coffee chats, and where we're meeting with all of our employees, no agenda, just checking in. And we have had a lot of great stuff come out of those conversations. People will say, "I'm really interested in learning this." And, Ken and I, notice that this is an area we could use some help, and we support them in that. And so that's been helpful. And then, we have team meetings every Monday and Friday, and we always start off our meetings with what are some wins for the week? What are some things that went well? And we celebrate those.
I'm going to steal all those ideas.
Yeah. I mean, it's such great advice for everybody out there, especially if you're looking to grow your team and you're looking at VAs for the first time. I mean, a lot of people just get stuck on like, oh, this, I'm going to get somebody for $6 an hour and they're going to do this job. And then you're like barking at them, or if they don't do something right. I mean, there's no way that you're going to be able to grow your organization and keep good talent with that mindset. It needs to be like they're your employees. It's a family. You're all working together. Everyone benefits everybody else. I think that's great advice for a lot of people, because a lot of people get hung up on where can they get stuff done cheap, and you got to take care of them. That's for sure. I did want to touch on one more point, because I had a question. You brought it up earlier, David, where you're talking about one of your employees is going through your listings and updating listings. How often are you changing your listings, or do they go through your whole catalog? Is there some sort of SOP that you have where you're constantly making updates or making sure that keywords are in there? What's that process look like for you?
Well, up until 6 months ago, we probably set it and forget it. We'd go get a professional listing done and it maybe sit there idle for 3 or 4 years. One thing that we've done quite a bit recently is been taking advantage of Amazon's split testing program. And, while someone is in Helium 10, it's easy to do keyword research, and, you have a hypothesis of, well, what if I switch up keywords, right? Because there's only so many things so many words to describe a product. And so, but, putting it at the beginning of your title or changing up your bullet points, before split testing, you just kind of make the changes, and it was a finger in the wind estimate of whether that was better or not. This split testing is data driven, and it really, so we have a cycle of every listing is being split tested at some point in time. And, we also have found, and what prompted this move 6 months ago is Amazon will have an algorithm change or something will happen. And hey, guess what? All of a sudden you have no bullet points, and that crushes your ranking. And you didn't do anything to cause that. At least we don't think that we did, or we were doing some flat file work and made a mistake. But unless we're having someone put eyes on it, those types of things slip through the cracks. And, your hero product, if its title disappears or its bullet points disappear, well, guess what? It's going to be tough to, for that to remain your hero product.
What are some things you split test? I know like the typical title, bullets, and images. Are those the main 3 you're looking at?
Yeah, main image. We always start with main image, and then once we kind of get that dialed in, then we'll do bullet points, and then last is EBC. And so, to set up a test takes a minute, and this week, actually, we are taking some photos, and on Fiverr for $5 a photo, you can have someone go in and really clean it up and touch it up. And, I am trying to balance out, do you take your own photos and give it to someone on Fiverr and have them touch it up, or do you go and get a professional photo right out of the gate? And I'm not sure if I have an answer to that yet, but anyway, that's main image. I mean, whenever I'm shopping on Amazon, I always like to take note of, why am I clicking on this? And it's the image. I mean, it's got a cool picture. I wish it was, I think most people are that way.
I think you're right. I think most people just look at the image and then they read like a few things of the title and they make their decision. Price look good. I'll go ahead and check out.
Reviews.
What's your product research look like? Is that something you still hold to the chest, or is that something you give to somebody and let them do it?
Yeah, we've got a pretty solid SOP in place for this. You want to cover this? You want me to?
Go for it. And then I can just follow up after that.
Yeah. So, we'll start with, an idea, right? And I like to use the Jungle Scout Chrome extension. And you can watch Jungle Scout training videos. They'll talk about, out of the top 10 products, how many of them have more than 1,000 reviews. That criteria is out there. But, we don't necessarily kill an idea in that stage if there are competitors with a lot of reviews. We really pay special attention to negative reviews, the 1 and 2 stars, and document those. And when we're working with suppliers, try to address those. And I think 1-star reviews are way more valuable than 5-star reviews, and you know that they're real. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are some people that go in and attack their competitors, but you get a lot of great feedback in there. And then, of course, being the accountant, at some point I open a spreadsheet and I'm looking at, selling price, FBA fee, referral fee, but I don't stop there. I like to look at shipping costs. So we'll pull up shipping data from like comparably sized items. We take into account shipping into Amazon, any storage fees that product is going to incur, any tariffs. So we fully load that cost. And at the end of that, if you're at 10% and you launch that product and you're disappointed with the 10% margin, well, guess what? That's what you signed up for. That's kind of going back to that killing it on paper. And so that's a little bit of our product research. And Ken, I'm sure I left out a couple pieces.
Yeah, sure. So kind of at a high level, like some of our brands, we have a larger email list for, and we have on other marketplaces. And so like from a holistic view, not just Amazon, but market wide for this brand, we look at product life cycle, and we also ask customers, what are you looking for? What else can we add to our catalog? Or look, what else are they buying? Sometimes just, depending on where your products are sold, you can go to the store, see what other products are on the shelf next to yours. That's an idea, and so we try to look at it from a bunch of different angles. We're in Walmart now. We have our direct consumer websites, and so we're really looking for to build out this catalog, and also to get into a higher price, maybe larger products that other people are not in right now, to really build out a nice catalog that's profitable. Is kind of
how often are you doing this product line? How often do you source new products? Is it like once a quarter, a couple times a quarter? What does that look like?
It goes in phases. Yeah, it goes in phases. And this year we, at the beginning of the year, we said our goal is to double in size, and we could either take our existing catalog into new marketplaces, UK, Germany, Canada, and Walmart, or we could launch new products. And we've, I would say, if I launch 10 products, 2 are going to be really good, 3 are going to be okay, and 5 are going to be duds. And I think if that is generally true, you're going to have duds. And so if you try to quantify that risk, there's a lot less risk in going into new marketplaces over and above expanding. Now, at some point, we're going to sell these companies and take some chips off the table. And if you haven't had a product launch in 2 or 3 years, in the product life cycle on an Amazon product's 5 years, that mature catalog is not going to be as attractive to a buyer. And so I don't have a clear answer on that. We haven't really, I don't think until the last couple of weeks, we haven't done one in 2021, or we did not do one in 2021 because of inventory restrictions.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic too.
Yeah.
Ken, you mentioned email list. Are you leveraging that to do launches? What's your launch process look like? Let's say you launch a new product. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, some of our brands, have large email lists. Some of them are in the kind of the incubation period of like getting traction. And so the brands that we have email lists for, we'll leverage that. And we've kind of like bounced back and forth between sending traffic to Amazon, sending traffic to the website. It's kind of a numbers game there, and kind of a long-term. Do you plan on holding this brand for a really long time, or do you plan on exiting? And that really will define that strategy. But for launch, yeah, we use our social channels, email marketing, website, coupons. So yeah, like I think on Amazon, the only thing left is Vine. And so we leverage Vine. Vine also works in international markets. Pro tip. So if you're launching on multiple international marketplaces and you have less than 30, you can enroll in each one and give that a nice pop. So kind of a combination of all of that.
Is it me, or has Vine lost its luster there for a minute? It feels like it's not as good as it used to be a year or two ago.
So it works. So we've had decent success with it, and right now that is the only way that besides follow up, the feedback, review, follow ups on there. But in terms, are you specifically talking about like percentage of good reviews coming in, or what?
Yeah, maybe it's the product, but it feels like when you used to enroll something into Vine, 30 units were gone just like that. Now it feels like it takes, months or a couple months to even get people to even buy it, and you're still waiting for those reviews to come in. It feels like that process is much longer. And I don't know if it's because Vine's more open to more sellers now, so there's more options to choose from, or people are not getting into Vine more actively. I don't know what it is, but it feels like it's lost its shiny object there. It's not as good as it used to be.
Sure. Yeah, I think we did have a mixed review of it in the last, say, 12 months. We had a couple products that we added and enrolled in Vine, and they sat. Nobody selected them. So I think it could be product wide. And then we had another one that launched like a variation on, and it had no reviews. And I think out of 30, we got 26 back. So it could be that's been our experience. So it's kind of hit or miss on the product, maybe.
Yeah, that could be.
You let's change gears here a little bit. You were talking earlier about expanding both internationally and onto Walmart. Love to hear how that's going, and what sort of steps you're taking to kick that off. I've tested international before. I'm not doing it. I'm not. Chris, you sell on Walmart. I'm not on Walmart, so I'd love to hear how that's going for you guys.
Sure.
Tell you what,
David,
let me
you want to
tackle
take
this.
international?
Yeah, let me tackle this from a macro perspective, and then Ken can drill in on some of the more finer details in our experiences. We have done sales channel expansion in the past. We're on Etsy, eBay. I was on Groupon for a couple years, and I would say that those caused more headaches than produced profit. And grass is greener on the side that you water. Now, when you look at Walmart, what's different about Walmart? Well, we've all heard of the Fortune 500 company. Well, guess who's Fortune 1? Guess who's the biggest company in the world? Walmart. Mm-hmm. And if I look at Amazon, what was Amazon's biggest problem in 2021? It was fulfillment centers. It was space. They plain just ran out of space. And so right now on U.S. soil, Amazon has 110 fulfillment centers. Guess who has 210? Walmart. Guess who invented just-in-time inventory? Walmart. They've got awesome logistics. They already have the brick and mortar infrastructure set up. And I think that, Amazon has grown and obviously has awesome market share. But if I were to go to Vegas and place a bet on whether Walmart is going to eat into that market share in the next 5 years, I would take that bet all day long. And so they've invested significant resources into their .com. And you guys have probably seen the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? The golden ticket. Bringing that to here, when Walmart's deciding what products they want to launch in their brick and mortar store, say in the pet supply category, well, guess where they're looking in terms of volume? At .com, and that's the golden ticket. If you can get into brick and mortar, that and keep in mind, we haven't experienced that, but we've heard about this golden ticket and it sounds sweet. And so that's in the back of our mind that, sure, if we're on top of page one in a particular category, we're a good candidate for brick and mortar. And so, I would say, kind of in closing on Walmart, in the last 50 years, what have we learned about Walmart? It is, don't bet against it. I mean, it takes money to make money, and they are a very successful company.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think you said 210 fulfillment centers that Walmart has. You could make an argument that they really have like 3,000 fulfillment centers. I mean, every one of their stores is a fulfillment center. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can see Walmart, putting a wall halfway through their store where the back end becomes their fulfillment center.
Well, that's what Target just did. I don't know if you guys seen what Target's doing, but the local Target here, they take out all the front row parking and it's just pickup now. And like the front of the store is all just picking, shopping offline. And so now they got these pickers. It's like, man, they're just making this a warehouse and they're just pulling items and now you're just picking it up and going. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think we're kind of in that phase one evolution of COVID really ramped up that. And I think it's going to continue to go and move in that direction. We're spoiled. We want things immediately, and 2 days is not fast enough. Well, Walmart and Target, they have the infrastructure to make that immediately. You can check it out. And then if you don't want to wait for the guy to deliver it next day or in 2 days, you can drive up to your Target or to your Walmart and pick it up. And so I think we're going to see more and more of that penetration deeper and deeper in. You're right. Like, and both Target and Walmart have a leg up on Amazon in that regard. They can, say they take the top two products of every category in their .com, and they just move and they just like go distributed inventory to the centers. And I think we'll see more of that. Now, kind of piggybacking off what David said, we had a brainstorming at the beginning of 2021, and we were kind of like, where do we want to, where can we, I think it was Kevin on Shark Tank. I love Shark Tank. He's like, where can I take, he's like, my dollars are like little soldiers and I release them out into the world, and where can they go bring me back more? And so David and I have one of those heart to hearts early in 2021. And we're like, where can we get the most bang for the buck? And we're like, you can launch products, or you can take your catalog that's successful on one marketplace and put it onto another one. And the cost is a lot. You don't have any duds. You have a catalog that works. And so, at a 20,000 foot view, we were like, let's take our catalogs of these brands and put them on Walmart, and then take the catalog and put them on Amazon International. And you're ordering from the same supplier. You're just making a larger order. And your media, your content, your copy, it's largely 80 or 90% there. You just copy it over. And so it's kind of low hanging fruit from what we in our minds, like we don't have to waste a bunch of money testing. We already have it. Let's just expand that way. And we're seeing some, like David mentioned, Walmart's they're a gorilla. And so we're seeing some pretty good traffic there. And the listings are a little bit different. Advertising is way different, but I'm excited for Walmart over the, say 3 to 5 year span.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. I just got an email, like I got two of them actually over the last couple of weeks. Pitch your product to the Walmart buyer.
Yep.
I was like, whoa, this is big news. Like, so they're trying to get more people. And I think if you get that, your product is now in Walmart retail. It's insane.
Yeah, we saw that. We got one of those a couple of weeks ago, and one of our brands, and David could cover it more, but one of our brands, we started self-manufacturing in the US now. And so we enrolled in that pitch today. Cause I think it was like made in USA products. That was like that pitch. And so, we signed up for that one. So hopefully we get that golden ticket.
Hopefully all those times you watch Shark Tank, it'll be just like, right. Don't go over asking more money or all that stuff.
Right. Got to come in with a really high valuation, and one person, we're asking for 1%.
I got two questions. I want to ask them both so I don't forget my questions about Walmart. So first question is, are these 5 separate Walmart accounts as well that coincide with the different brands and different businesses? And was there any issues setting up multiple accounts? The other question I want to touch on is, since your goal is to maybe get that golden ticket and get your products in retail, are you designing your packaging ahead of time, thinking about that? Like, is it retail ready packaging for your product? Like, is it something that needs to be hung up, or how that looks? I'll let you guys take those.
David, you want it, or I can take them.
Go for it.
All right. Sorry. Whenever there's 4 people on a podcast, it's
always right.
I want to raise my hand for anybody. So the first question is yes, all 3 separate. So every brand that we start, we started with a new business entity, new bank account. Like David in a former life was an accountant, so he's very like, this is this and this, and so they're all separate. No issues with logging into them. One challenge we had, and pro tip for listeners, with Walmart, you can only have one Walmart access to one account with one email. So like if you had Ken at Walmart.com was my brand. I couldn't access 3 different Walmart accounts with that email. So you have to have separate emails for each one. So we had to create like a generic email for each one so our team could log in and monitor that stuff. And then the second one is a really good question. And the answer is no. We have largely designed our packaging. We do believe in really high quality packaging and great packaging, but it is not retail ready. Actually, a lot of our stuff is specifically designed for maximizing shipping space. And so what you're talking about, Dustin, like a lot of my products, when I first went on one of the brands specifically, they're kind of smaller and they have that little tab with the thing that you slide them on the retail hooks, but we remove that because you can pack them easier. And so the answer is no. And that is something we would have to, quickly adopt to. But we have we've recently, David found, we partnered with a box manufacturer locally here that is amazing. And so that if we get that golden ticket, that's probably number one challenge we're going to have to solve.
Yeah. I wonder if Walmart is looking at that as part of their decision process when they're reaching out. I have no idea. I guess they assume that can be changed if the product's worth doing it for, but it just popped in my head when you guys were talking about it. It was interesting because I designed my packaging the same way. I want to make it the most efficient possible, especially for Amazon. So it would change things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking directly to that, a buddy of mine, he had a brand and he actually got the golden ticket a couple years ago, and he modified all of his products. He wasn't in Amazon at the time, but he had to modify them to I forgot what the terminology was, but basically I think it's row packed or case packed. They buy them for like the display case and then just pop them up. So so that would definitely be it's an easy challenge to solve, but hopefully we have to solve that problem.
Hopefully you get that.
That's a problem that you want for sure.
Yeah, it is. That's a problem we would welcome.
Yeah.
So what's some things that we're a month into 2022? What's some things that you may have learned in Q4 of last year, or maybe even sooner, that you're trying to prevent happening moving forward? So like, what are inventory is probably one, and obviously logistics, but what are some things that, looking back, that you hope to prevent happening this year?
I'll tell you what, one thing I think is worth noting is where we're sourcing from. And, I think 5 years ago, if you were to look at it in a spreadsheet, right, sourcing out of China over the US from a dollars and cents standpoint tended to make sense. Now you fold in $20,000 shipping containers, you fold in a 25% tariff, and it is no longer as attractive. And I should mention 90 to 120 day lead time. It is no longer as attractive. We were looking at something yesterday where our unit price was $5. Our landed cost was somewhere around 13 or 14 bucks. And, that's after tariffs and shipping. And, our customer is not getting, when you factor in that additional shipping and tariff, they are not getting a better product. That does not enhance their experience at all. It's adding zero value to that customer experience. And so, we are looking to move more manufacturing on U.S. soil. And we also started self-manufacturing, which has kind of been an experiment. We had one brand that probably required about 10 to 15 grand in tooling to get it off the ground. But, if you look at a manufacturer, usually they're going to make 20 or 30%. And, as an Amazon seller, usually you want to make 15 or 20%. And so by cutting them out, it leaves more meat on the bone for PPC spend, for, just overall profit margin. And, I also think there's something personally satisfying about making something or having employees that can make things. I think so much of e-commerce is done on a hard drive and in the cloud that when you go over to a warehouse and you see that your guys made 500 units that day, it just, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I like it.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, one quick pro tip for all the listeners that stayed on this long for the podcast. Something that I learned that David and I learned 3 years ago, but we actually never implemented in Q4, which was, and we actually put a calendar invite for next year. we're going to shut off ads from the 25th until like the 1st, because we've looked at our historical data. This is Amazon specific, but probably most online marketplaces, people don't shop. And you know what? Amazon sure does take that budget for those 6 days that there's no buyer intent. And so next year we're going to be shutting off ads from in that like 6 or 7 day window.
That's a good tip. Maybe even like the 23rd or 24th.
Yeah,
you know?
24th to like the 1st or 2nd is where we're finding that sweet spot where there's buyer intent is gone.
That's a good tip there. I like that. It's so simple. Like
right. It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah, it's so simple. Man, this has been full of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is my favorite kind of conversation too. Yeah. I think this is the most valuable for people listening. It's the four of us. We're all in the same boat, and we're all asking questions because we want to know the answer to that question. And so I think it's really helpful. But I have to tackle a little bit more this self-manufacturing that you guys are doing. This is fascinating. So is it a complex process to manufacture this product? Is it, you have a lot of
printer and that's it? Like, what does it look like?
What does this look like?
Yeah. So I think it's worth starting at the beginning of this process. So I have a couple rental properties and bought one that had a 40 by 60 foot shed in the back, and I didn't want to rent that out. So, and Ken can speak to what a shithole that place. It was. Ken, tell him about it.
Yeah, it was a dump. He said, "Hey, come on." It's one of those things where, you're an entrepreneur and you have all these ideas, and he's like, "Hey, come take a look at this." And I looked and I'm like, what are you doing? Anyway.
Yeah. Dirt floors, floor to ceiling junk. And we hauled like 4 industrial 30-yard dumpsters of just crap out of there to get it off the ground. But, that was really helpful for inventory storage in 2021. But the manufacturing process, no, this particular product is not super challenging to manufacture. Now, if you're selling iPhones or something very complicated, don't even consider self-manufacturing. But, I talked to someone at Prosper, I think, and they were in liquids. And I don't know what type of liquids, but they were mixing. And they were like, I do it in my garage. And, if you look at everything in the room or around you right now, it was all manufactured. Someone can do it. There's a tool out there. And so I really have enjoyed it. It's been fun learning the tooling. It certainly comes with its own headaches, but from a profit standpoint, I think the juice is worth the squeeze. And, also on like new product launches, you don't have to deal with the MOQ of 2,000 units. If you want to make 10 units, we'll make 10 units and launch those. And so I think cuts down on lead time. It's cutting down on stock outs. I should add, it comes with its own list of headaches. You got to hire people. Things break down. There's maintenance, but it's something that I think if someone had the interest, it is a totally viable option. And I think it's something that's usually overlooked. You take an Amazon course, they're going to say, go to Alibaba, source something that fits in a backpack. And, never even mention you could make something here. And Etsy is a good example of this. There's a lot of people that are making things and making good income on Etsy.
I love looking at Etsy. Just get an idea, be like, hey, can you make like 500 of these?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at product ideas. One thing to note on the self-manufacturing too, like I think David alluded to a little bit, like, this term just-in-time inventory. We look at what we sold the week before, get a production plan for the next week, hand to the shop manager, and they make it that week and ship it in. And so it's been. I tell you what, when the idea came up, I was kind of against it. Like, man, this seems like a lot of work, right? Well, on the other side of this, then now it's done and it's functioning and operating. It's a really, really powerful tool, and it gives a huge edge over the competitors. We can do product enhancements. We can change things on the fly. We have just-in-time inventory, and you're likely making it for a lot cheaper than your competitors are sourcing it for. So it's a great idea now on the other side of it, but caution, it comes with its own challenges as well. So, but that's what people don't tell you up front, right?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that whole thing. I mean, I'm getting pumped up. It's like, imagine if 3,000 small businesses all decided to start manufacturing, come back to the United States on the backs of small businesses. I mean, that's really cool.
To be honest, sorry, Dustin. To be honest, like David just created an entire presentation on this. If you guys want to have back on, and we could do a whole podcast on that, kind of taking a deep dive into what, looking at the numbers, what that actually was, and the process of that. If your audience,
that would be unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do it. Yeah, be happy to do it.
Oh man, self-manufacturing. I wasn't even.
Dustin's ready to take a road trip.
I'm telling you, my wheels are spinning.
Yeah,
because I've got products that are not very complicated, and you just think would be too difficult to manufacture it, and I just don't think that's true.
And you know what? You don't have to do the whole thing, right? So, like boxes, we still order from a box manufacturer. The business, you can pick certain parts of the process that you want to be part of, and both Ken and I read a book this year called Who Not How. Awesome book. And the premise of the book is, when you're faced with a challenge, don't ask yourself, how can I do this? You say, who can we find to help solve this problem? And we have our shop manager. He's a veteran out of the Marine Corps, 27 years old. Awesome. And, I know Ken can speak to this. He's a veteran. The VA does a lot of things wrong, but their job placement program, I think is tremendous. And you think of, we don't need someone that has, a college degree or I think that the military really helps people, follow instructions, report to superiors. The military has a lot of SOPs, right? And so that's been a pro tip on helping us find our who.
That is awesome. All right, we're booking that after we're done here. We're scheduling you to come in. We want to hear. I've got to hear it just for me, selfishly. I got to hear the whole outline.
He's gonna go buy like a third-car garage now.
Oh, I know. I'm like, can't wait to go tell my wife that we're about to be manufacturers.
Yeah.
And you got two employees, 2 kids.
Oh yeah, my kid is perfect. Yeah. Get them to work.
That decreases the cogs, right?
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. Well, I know we've taken a lot of your time. We've been chatting here for almost an hour, and we can't thank you enough. It's so fun to have you guys on. Everyone has got to check out your podcast, Firing the Man. It's on every podcast platform, I'm sure. So everyone go find that, listen to it. Their content's great. Obviously, you can tell. So thanks again so much for joining us, guys. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Chris and Dustin. Anytime. It's been a great chat. So thanks for catching up.
For sure, it's good to have good people in the space.
Oh yeah, for sure. So thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in. If you love content like this, we got a lot of comments on YouTube and LinkedIn that came in, and it was all positive. Everyone loved the information. So if you like this kind of information, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, or you can catch our live streams on Solozo's LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook channels. So make sure you're subscribing to those as well. Additionally, if you're currently selling on Amazon right now and you're struggling with PPC, we would love to help you out. You can go to solozo.com. You can book a demo. You'll get a chat with Chris or myself. We'll talk obviously anything Amazon, and we'll also show you the power of Solozo's platform in terms of automating and optimizing your advertising. So go to solozo.com and check that out. All right, everybody. See you next time. Thanks for joining us.